In this video, I'll explain the fundamental drawing skills that took my art from looking like this to looking like this. So, you want to draw from your imagination. You have all these cool ideas in your head for characters and settings and faces and figures and monsters and dragons. Maybe you want to make a graphic novel or an animated short film, or just do some fan art of your favorite fandom. But then you sit down to draw, and the results are, well, not as cool as they were in your head. I used to draw from imagination every day, and I still sucked at it. The passion was there, I just didn't know what I was doing. So naturally, I searched for the answers. How do you draw from imagination? What are the steps? What's the method? And I found books and I found tutorials, but a lot of the times they didn't really help me. There'd always be a point in the tutorial where the artist just makes this perfect stroke that's just like the exact right stroke. Or they just somehow know what the character or figure is supposed to look like. And I'd be watching and have no idea how they just did that. I couldn't do that in my work. It felt like there was something they weren't telling me. Like there was something that I was missing. And I finally figured out what it was that I was missing, and it was a total game changer. What I realized is that it's not about having the right method or the right process. Drawing from imagination is not a recipe that you can follow step by step. It's about having the right skills. If you don't have the skills, it doesn't matter what method you use, you won't be able to execute it. And if you do have the skills, you can do whatever method. You can make up your own. It'll still probably work out. In this video, I'll summarize the skills that you need to draw from imagination, but there's so much more to it than I can cover in a video. So I wrote a book, Imaginative Drawing, that you can download for free at imaginativedrawing.com. In the book, I explain the fundamentals of drawing from imagination, why they're fundamental, and how to learn them in a logically connected way so that the most basic skills build into the more advanced concepts. I'm a traditionally trained animator, with over a decade of experience as a professional artist in the animation industry, including working on projects for Disney, DreamWorks, and Netflix. I also teach, both beginner artists and at the college level, where my students have gone on to work as animators, storyboard artists, and background artists. So what skills do you need to draw from imagination? Let's start with an example. This is Polis Verso, an 1872 oil painting by Jean-Léon Gérôme. In the painting, a gladiator stands over his defeated opponent. A crowd of spectators cheer from the grand architecture of the Colosseum, while the emperor watches from his golden throne. We know that Gérôme created this image from imagination, since he painted it centuries after the fall of the Roman Empire. In reality, we aren't seeing gladiators or the Colosseum. We see oil affixed to a canvas, or a reproduction in pixels on a screen. The gladiators in Colosseum exist not on the canvas, but in the mind of the viewer. We experience them as real people in a real place, because they're presented in a way that's similar to how they would appear if we were actually there. The image is similar to a visual experience. The figures are made up of the anatomical features we're used to seeing when we see humans. Those anatomical features are made up of three-dimensional forms that take up space, similarly to the way we experience forms in real life. The patterns of light and dark on the subject are consistent with the light source that's coming from above and slightly to the left. The armor is made of metal that reflects light in a way similarly to how we've experienced shiny metal. The space and depth of the scene is presented in a way that's similar to how we experience space and depth in real life. We see the scene from the point of view of standing on the arena floor. By being similar to a visual experience, Gérôme's painting feels real and immersive in the mind of the viewer. To understand how this works, let's take a quick look at the science of visual perception. It may seem as though our eyes are small skull-mounted cameras that give our brain a direct video feed of our surroundings. However, our visual experience is actually a mental model constructed by our visual system based on both sensory input and pattern recognition. Basically, our eyes take in light, and our visual system constructs a model of the most likely three-dimensional surroundings to have produced that pattern of light. We see the model, not the light itself. What this means for drawing is that if we can create an image that's similar enough to a visual experience, the viewer will be able to construct a mental model of a reality based on our image. This creates the kind of immersion where lines, colors, and shapes on the page or screen become characters, objects, and settings in the mind of the viewer. An image does not need to be as realistic as Polis Verso for this to work. In Steamboat Willie, Mickey looks nothing like a real mouse, and yet we have no trouble accepting him as a real character in a real setting, because like in Polis Verso, Mickey is presented in a way that's similar to a visual experience. He's made up of three-dimensional forms that take up space, The space and forms are seen from a single point of view. When all of the visual elements within an image suggest the same three-dimensional reality, our visual system has no trouble constructing a mental model of that reality in our mind. However, if some elements don't appear to fit into this model, they'll look wrong and the model will be weakened. Our visual system can even backfill missing or incomplete information into our mental model based on past experience. For example, if we take a closer look at the distant crowd in Polis Verso, we'll notice there's actually very little information, merely the suggestion of figures. But based on the context, you are likely able to backfill the missing details to see a crowd full of people. Now that we have a clearer idea of our goal, we can come up with a logical plan on how to achieve it. Drawing fundamentals are the skills that allow us to represent visual experience in an image. We can develop some of these drawing fundamentals during observational drawing, where we translate our visual experience into an image, or more simply put, we draw what we see. During observational drawing, we'll develop fundamental skills that we'll be able to use again when drawing from imagination, such as form, value, color, proportion, and texture. When drawing from observation, we see from our single point of view, but when drawing from imagination, we need to invent the point of view from which our subjects are seen. Perspective allows us to recreate the effect of seeing from a single point of view in an image. With perspective, we can invent spaces and forms and draw them from imagination as if they're seen from any point of view. We can start with basic forms and then combine them into more complex objects. With these skills, we can invent and draw objects from imagination from any angle and have them appear believably three-dimensional. We can render these objects by lighting them with invented light sources, because light behaves in predictable ways. Studying how the behavior of light creates the patterns of brightness and darkness that we see on surfaces in life allows us to invent light sources from imagination. This is the key to creating believable shading on imagined subjects. We can use our skills of drawing objects from imagination to draw figures from imagination. By learning anatomy, we can learn to draw anatomical forms from any angle, just like we did with objects. Then, learning the system of connection that attach these anatomical forms allows us to arrange them in ways that create believable figures. With this knowledge, we can modify anatomical forms to create all sorts of characters. We can take the method of learning component parts and combining them into a whole that we use to study the figure and apply it to learn any complex subject. We can even take elements from multiple subjects and modify and combine them to create something entirely new. With these skills, we can believably draw anything that we can imagine. But there's more to drawing than just being believable. Studying composition allows us to create images that are clear and visually interesting. By studying the work of master artists, we can learn how to arrange visual elements to create interesting patterns and direct the viewer's attention to the most important ideas of the composition. Imaginative drawing is not about teaching you to draw the way I do. It's about giving you the tools so you can draw the way you want to. There are practically infinite ways to represent visual experience in an image. Like a good storyteller, you'll be able to decide what information to include in your drawings and what to leave out. You can experiment with different approaches in different media to find what appeals to you instead of being stuck in the same style. An intellectual understanding of drawing fundamentals on its own is not enough. To be able to apply them in your work consistently, you need to practice them. Ideally, until those fundamental skills become so ingrained that they're just a natural part of your drawing process. Imaginative drawing has over 70 exercises designed to build your fundamental skills and put them to the test. I don't want you to have to struggle with learning to draw from imagination the way I did, so I'm giving imaginative drawing away completely for free. Download your copy at imaginativedrawing.com. If you find it helps you improve your work, I humbly ask you to consider donating what you thought that was worth. But if you don't want to do that, that's cool too. I'm giving it away for free because I want to take the art instruction I do in the classroom and bring it to the internet where I can help more people. If that's something you believe in, then help me get the word out. Share the book or this video with people you think would benefit from it. And do the things that promote the video in the algorithm, like, comment, and subscribe. You can also join my community of like-minded artists who are serious about improving their skills, where you can get feedback and grow together. Or just leave a comment and make fun of the way I look, because I think that's funny. Enjoy the book, and happy drawing!